Good morning and thanks for joining us on a Thursday morning on Breakfast Central. To our viewers here in Lagos, across the country and of course across the continent, we hope you enjoy the next 2 hours with us where we have some of the most popular conversations in news and current affairs here in Nigeria. I am Osaugi Ogbawa.
And I am Olive Emodi, very excited to be here. And thanking you for joining us to start the show. Excuse me. It's very interesting to see what's been happening in Nigeria, and the political climate has been quite tense, especially in particular states. The minister or the commissioner of environment in Rivers State has resigned because he has cited that the political environment of the state is not quite conducive. He's referred to it as toxic. And it's not the only one. We have reports that 9 Wike loyalists have quit Fubara's administration. They've all tendered their political resignations from the cabinet or from the office. And some of them, I'm going to quote exactly what they have said. So we did see that one of them said, "I write to formally resign my appointment as the Honorable Commissioner of Housing, one of the most difficult decisions in my life yet. It is precipitated by the toxic atmosphere that has characterized our working relationship, especially the smoldering arbitrariness of decisions and actions, including the attempt to fuse the executive and legislative arms of government in Rivers State." And this is just one of the, resignation letters that have hit the governor's desk. And the drama in Rivers State has been one that has been going on for a while. Ever since Governor Siminalayi Fubara has set into office, it would seem that Rivers State has been fraught with chaos. Chaos as some have blamed on him for trying to upset what was already an existing structure of the state in quotes. Chaos that others would say is sponsored or fueled by the crisis between the past governor of the state, who is currently the minister of the FCT, and some have said that he has refused to let go of this quote-unquote structure in Rivers State. So if they are all citing toxic work environment, unconducive work environment, it's fair, it's a legit point, it's a legitimate point, it's a valid point. But at what point, does the governor and do the rest of the members of his cabinet have to be able to do what they need to do? Because it just feels like every day they don't really, it's drama every day. It's one story. Yesterday we had another story. We talked about it yesterday. And true to our words, we did say that the next time will come, we'll have a fresh development in Rivers State. It's almost like every day. A few days ago we talked about the new commissioner of justice that was sworn in. We've talked about resignations, his visit to the assembly complex and how it's become an issue, the executive order he sent out, moving the point of gathering for the assembly members, So it's just every day one drama or the other in Rivers State. When will Rivers State actually breathe?
These resignations and of course, the governance aspect of it, would eventually turn out to be, or for me, I interpret them as the results of the major problem. They're the, I don't want to call them victims, but, they're the, eventual results that we find from the major problem, which is a clash between the governor and, the former governor. Whatever other things that are happening around, this little bits and pieces here or there, are really just, what happens when the elephants are fighting. This is the ground or the grass that is suffering. Commissioners will not be able to work because, of course, they have to, either take sides or the environment becomes too toxic for them to actually work. And it is within their rights, this appointment, it's within their rights to decide that, okay, I don't think I would find, a comfortable working environment here and I would like to leave, and that's fine. He would have to figure out, who will take those positions and stay. I just don't find it comfortable when the news report says it is Wike loyalists, that are resigning from the government, because they're not there to be loyal to a person. They're there to serve the state. They're not, their loyalty should be to Rivers State, and to the people of Rivers State when they've been given those appointments in any of the ministries there. Health, infrastructure, tourism, education, anything. Your loyalty should be to the state. So it just sounds, off when they describe them as a loyalist to one person or the other. And once again, I feel like these are just the offshoots of the major problem, which is the battle between the governor and the former governor. Will they eventually find time to actually work? I don't know. One thing I thought to mention, I did see yesterday someone commenting and saying that, since the administration came into office, they've never, Fubara hasn't really had 1 year of being governor.
No.
He's had, a couple of months, and most of the time in initial stages, which is what caused the problems. Most of the times in initial stages, he wasn't really in charge of his government. So you can't even say that he has been governor. The accusations are that the former governor, of course, placed people in office or, and bought forms, as he boldly said, that he bought forms for a lot of them. So he basically made those appointments on behalf of Sim Fubara. And so the state wasn't actually being run by Sim Fubara. So these are some of, the things, of course, that have occurred in the last, long while with regards to River State. New appointments, I'm sure, will be made in the last 24 hours. Yeah, I'm sure
and there will be another update in the next 24 hours.
Yeah. New appointments will be made, and, I hope that they can, focus on governance at some point.
Hello and welcome to Breakfast Headlines. I'm Judith TV. We'll get started with our breakfast headlines. Begins in the west of the continent, where a new wave of resignations has hit the River State government of Nigeria, headed by Governor Siminalayi Fubara. There's 5 more commissioners who are loyal to the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Wike, on Wednesday resigned from the governor's cabinet. Those who resigned are Chinedu Mmom from the Ministry of Education, Gift Wolu from the Ministry of Housing, and Jacobson Mbina from the Ministry of Transport. Inime Aguma resigned as Commissioner for Social Welfare and Rehabilitation, saying there is no room for progressional development in the workplace. Austin Ben Chioma also resigned as the Commissioner for Environment, citing the political crisis befalling River State and other personal reasons. And still on politics, the All Progressives Congress in Igbo Tako Ward 2, Okiti Popa local government area of Ondo State has suspended the senator representing Ondo South, Jimo Ibrahim. The senator was alleged to have been involved in anti-party activities. Now, this was contained in a statement signed on Wednesday by 29 executive members of the party, including the chairman and secretary in the ward, Adetokunbo Adetola and Shola Omoteyo, respectively. The national chairman of Nigeria's opposition Labour Party, Julius Abure, has appealed to the leadership of the National Labour Congress to set aside their grievances and join hands to work for the interest of the party. Abure made the appeal in the nation's capital, Abuja, while addressing newsmen following the resumption of the party's National Working Committee after the conclusion of its national convention. He accused the ruling All Progressives Congress of causing more hardship to citizens, saying that attacks on him and the party are unnecessary and are distracting citizens from the real issues affecting the nation.
Create an enabling environment to capture power and use same for the betterment of our people. Consequently, I want to appeal to first my own brother, my friend and my comrade, Joe Ajero, President of the Nigerian Labour Congress, whom we have worked together in the trenches over the years in the struggle for workers. We need not fight ourselves. What are we fighting for? Fighting for nothing. I think that there's a bigger fight ahead, and I think we should team up together.
Nigeria's Ministry of Works has given Julius Berger Construction Company a 7-day ultimatum to return back to site to complete the Boni Bodo Road project or have the contract terminated. The Minister of Works, David Umeyi, while expressing displeasure over the refusal of the company to return back to site, says that the ministry has shown undue restraint over the continuous disobedience of Julius Berger to complete the project.
It is very wrong for a company to continue to insist to have, her wage. This relationship must be determined today, whether to be or not to be. And I want us to know that we have once given Berger 7 days notice in line with the law and the contract agreement. Go back to site, or we give you 14 days notice of termination. They did not go back to site. We issued 14 days notice of termination. Giving Berger 7 days to go back to site, not 4 weeks, 7 days. If they don't go back to site after 7 days, that.
And on to Gambia, where a former Interior Minister, Usman Sonko, has been sentenced to 20 years in prison by a court in Switzerland for crimes against humanity committed when President Yahya Jammeh was in power. This is according to a non-governmental organization which presented evidence of atrocities committed against the former president's political opponents at the International Court. Philip Grants, the executive director of Trial International, the NGO that filed the complaint for Sonko's arrest, said on X that the conviction sends a resounding message against impunity. And that's all on Breakfast Headlines. My name is Judith, TV. Back to your anchors, and that's Olive and Osa.
Thank you very much, Judith. We did speak a little bit about the developments in River State. Once again, I normally would say 1 week, one trouble, but this one feels like it's every 24 hours. There's new developments, a new crisis, new resignations. What are your thoughts?
Honestly, I do not wish to be in Fubara's shoes at this point in time. I do not. It's like you just said, waking up every day, it's almost every hour of every minute of every second, something seems to be happening. And it's so distracting from what it's really at the very core of this entirely, and that is governance in and of itself. And it makes me wonder how it's going to navigate this, this mass exodus so far of, government officials that have been handpicked to sort of, steer the ship in terms of economic empowerment and, and all the dividends of governance that is supposed to be happening. And just 1 year in, it's, I do not wish to be in his shoes.
Well, this is not his first rodeo. He's had a number of resignations since he became governor, and I'm sure that he'll figure it out. Besides, when one person doesn't want to work, there are more than a number of other people who will happily step in. But we'll look at, take things one day at a time and see how they unfold in River State. Thank you very much, Judith. See you much later. All right, and now we'll go on the break. When we come back, there's more conversations. We're heading into our top stories. Begin in a moment.
Welcome once again. Nigeria's President Bola Tinubu has commissioned several key gas projects expected to improve domestic gas supply in the country and the nation's energy sector. President Tinubu, during the virtual commissioning of the projects from the State House in Abuja, says that they would help Nigeria achieve its gas objectives and create employment opportunities for youths. Amadine Uyi tells us more.
It was the virtual commissioning of 3 key gas projects by President Bola Tinubu.
The 3 milestone projects, which includes the expansion of the AHL gas processing plant, the ANO gas processing plant, and the 23 kilometers ANO to Obiafu, Obrikum, Oben, OB3, custody transfer metering station gas pipeline project.
These gas infrastructure projects mark a significant milestone in our nation's journey towards energy sustainability and economic prosperity. They represent a renewal of hope in our collective efforts to business the potentials of natural gas and to build a brighter future for generations to come.
President Tinubu says that the projects will accelerate the development of gas infrastructure in the country, improve the supply of energy expected to boost the nation's quest for industrialization.
This event is highly significant in our country and demonstrates the administration's determination to accelerate the development of critical gas infrastructure geared at demonstrably enhancing the supply of energy to boost the industrial growth and create employment opportunity and further prosperity for our people.
He adds that the projects will also improve domestic gas supply in the country.
Approximately 500 million standard cubic feet of gas in aggregate will be supplied to the domestic market from these 2 gas processing plants, representing over 25% incremental growth in our domestic gas supply.
President Tinubu says that the project will also support efforts aimed at creating employment opportunities for citizens. In Abuja for News Central, I am Amadine Uyi.
Oh, well, of course, the gas conversations continue. Of course, remember, earlier this week, there were new regulations being given by the federal government and, encouraging MDAs to use CNG-powered vehicles going forward. But of course, we'll see how this one leads. There's more and more of these conversations concerning how much more Nigeria can get, develop its gas sector. There's too much that the country has missed out on, with a poorly developed gas sector. And we should be one of the world's leading producers of gas. And of course, one of the world's highest earners for gas, but it's currently not the situation. Now, the Nigerian Labour Congress and the Trade Union Congress walked out of an ongoing minimum wage negotiations meeting with the federal government and the organized private sector yesterday. Unionists walked out on the basis of a 48,000 naira offer from the federal government and 54,000 naira offer from the organized private sector.
Now, recall that the organized labor had made a demand of 615,000 naira as the new minimum wage and had given the government up till May 31st to conclude negotiations on a new living wage.
With Nigerian workers, despite earnest efforts to reach an equitable agreement, the less than reasonable action of the government and the organized private sector has led to a breakdown in negotiations. The government's proposal of a paltry 48,000 naira as the minimum wage does not only insult the sensibilities of Nigerian workers, but also falls significantly short of meeting our needs and aspirations. In contrast, organized private sector proposed an initial offer of 54,000, though it is worth noting that even the least paid workers in the private sector receive 78,000 naira.
Now, it's important to note that the current minimum wage of 30,000 naira was put into effect in 2019, and before that, it was 2011 when the minimum wage was 18,000 naira. Just remember that time. Back then, and even with a number of us saw the reflections with the NYC allowances, popularly referred to as allowing, we saw them increase over time. But the Nigerian Labour Congress began talks with the government to increase the 30,000 naira minimum wage in 2020, and this is still an ongoing conversation. Rejections have been made, suggestions have been put forward. Some people have referred to their demands as extremely ridiculous. Now, yesterday on our front page review segment, public affairs analyst Deyemi Saka said 615,000 naira is too much to ask from the Organized Labour Congress. Do you agree? What are your thoughts? So we asked Nigerians, and here are some of their reactions to this standpoint. We have some tweets from X. Someone said, official BAT, that's President Tinubu, you have always promised the Nigerian workers a living wage, and now your team is negotiating 48,000 naira as minimum wage with the NLC. With all the policies that has made life difficult for the people? Ha! This is Additional Samson. And the next tweet is from Abu Zainab. Imagine a country where its parliamentarians earn millions, offering the persons that do most of the labor with a paltry sum of 48,000 naira as minimum wage. Common sense is really not common, from Abu Zainab. Sassy Angel says, this government is heartless. With over 32% inflation and over 300% increment in cost of living, they could only propose just over 30% increase in minimum wage. That's what Sassy Angel says. And this person says, if the minimum wage enters 650K, how much will maximum wage be? That's a valid question. Yeah. But yes.
But they've all pointed out very important things, besides the maximum wage part. But the important things. Inflation is 33%. Food inflation is about 40%. This, has been the most expensive living
ever
for any Nigerian, both rich, poor, short and tall. Everybody has had to make extreme adjustments to their living standards to at least survive. And if you describe this from there's currently no middle class. So if you describe this from the perspective of a regular, who used to be seen as the poor people, the adjustments that they have had to make to just keep it going is insane. So imagine that you've had those increments. Every single week, we're talking about new levels of taxation that the government is proposing, from electricity to petrol to, of course, cybersecurity levy, which was eventually, suspended for now.
Yeah.
And there's many other, taxations, that have come in. And yet, all you can offer is 48,000 naira, a month, which is maybe like $20. I'm not even sure if it's up to $20 a month, but $20-something a month. And if you compare that with the minimum wage in neighboring African countries, you realize that it's a complete slap in the face of the average Nigerian. Nobody is expecting, that you will reach and say, okay, maybe you should do 615,000 naira, like the NLC is requesting. No one expects that would happen. But can you at least not insult Nigerians by proposing 48,000 naira, especially with what has happened in the last 1 year of the current administration?
So let's put it in context. If we were to use the current exchange rate, 48,000 is approximately a little over $30.
Is it?
Yeah,
okay.
That's at the exchange rate. That's assuming, we're exchanging for 1,500. Even though last time I checked it was for 1,502, and as of yesterday, I saw some people exchanging for 1,600. So at the end of the day, how does a person survive on $32 in a month?
Yeah.
That's one. Two, whilst we're saying that it's just for a short time, and Nigerians need to endure, Nigerians need to, manage and just wait it out and push through. The one thing that a number of people have, talked about is you can't be asking the lower class, the people who are bearing the brunt of the inflation, the rising inflation, the food inflation. You can't be asking them to keep managing and keep cutting. How much more can they cut? Especially when politicians and those at the helm of affairs don't seem to be cutting down their lifestyle. Have we heard that, okay, we're cutting down certain allowances? The RSI report, we haven't heard much about it.
Absolutely not.
The RSI report was supposed to be implemented within 12 weeks, even though a number of people said this 12th week is not applicable. It just felt like they wanted a whole media buzz. Many people said it felt like they wanted a whole media buzz to seem like the government is actually listening, because that report, of course, talked about merging of a lot of agencies, cutting the cost of governance. But have we really seen the cutting of the cost of governance being reflected in today's reality, in our economy, in the policies that are being made?
Absolutely
are we
not.
seeing a cut in the cost of governance? How much are ministers earning? These people are there to serve us, aren't they? Will I employ someone and not know how much I'm paying them? How much are they earning? Beyond their salaries, how much are their allowances? Where are we removing extra money from? The assembly members who have come under criticism, especially the House, the Senate, and they're asking, how much are these people earning?
I don't know that those are the major.
I mean, these are just some of the things.
Yeah,
because they also need to take cuts. They are public servants.
So my
they
point
need
is,
to take cuts.
my point is, regardless of how much you're cutting out, that's not really where, it might be a start, it might be one of the items, but it's not the major source of funding, that would help Nigeria be able to afford, 100,000 naira minimum wage. The government, of course, has always talked about a living wage, but the president before, of course, while during campaign, spoke about a living wage. What do they see as a living wage for the average Nigerian with current economic realities? The metrics that we're currently dealing with. It's not 48,000 naira, obviously.
Neither is it 54,000 naira.
Neither is it 54,000 naira. But the point is, can they afford it currently? Those are questions that they need to ask. And so when Labour is putting forward figures, Labour also needs to be honest with itself that Nigeria currently affords 600,000 or even 200,000 naira minimum wage for government workers, for civil servants. And this also includes, the private sector, which of course has to also up its salary scale. And that also would make you then question, okay, how much inflation? What would happen with the value of the naira if these things are truly implemented? So there's too many questions, but have we seen that the current administration has made some of these moves, like you said, to cut down on government expenditure? Have we seen that since they got into office, they've thought about, okay, in what ways can we save money and stop wasting money?
Have they thoroughly looked at the budgets that are coming to them?
In what ways can we stop? Because, I know I spoke with, analyst many years ago, and he said one of the biggest problems Nigeria has is not an expenditure problem, it's a wastage problem. There's so many ways that Nigeria wastes money, and the country itself just continues to leak and bleed. And if you block some of all these leakages, Nigeria would save trillions of naira. But I don't know that we're currently seeing a government that understands that and says to itself, okay, we need to block some of these leakages. In the news yesterday, they're talking about spending 90 billion naira to subsidize Hajj, for people who are going to be traveling for the next Hajj. And you hear some of these things and you realize, okay, this government's still not serious about what it wants to do and its plans and its ideas as to what it wants to achieve for Nigeria. It's still not a serious government, because those are the things that you are still thinking about. If those are still the kind of things that come up in your conversation, seeing where Nigeria currently is, then you're not a serious government. And so, can we afford 150,000 naira minimum wage? Can we afford 90,000 naira? It's left for them to decide. But what steps are they taking to ensure that there's a possibility that we save up enough money and then we can make adjustments with salary scale? In what ways are they making? Are they reducing the level of oil bunkering in the creeks? In what ways are they increasing Nigeria's oil production so that we can sell more oil? Hit 1.8 million barrels a day, 2 million barrels a day, in fact 3 million barrels a day if possible. I mean, if God do that one for us, but God.
God.
But how do we hit those levels, make more money, and then have more money to fund the country? But there's none of those conversations happening at all. And so once again, 48,000 naira, when Labour says it's an insult, you can't argue with them.
Right.
All right. Let's take a short break.
Yes, we will.
When we come back, we continue, of course, these discussions this morning on Breakfast Central.
Welcome back. The National Bureau of Statistics, NBS, has released its inflation statistics for the month of May, and it's on a 0.49% increase from March's inflation rate of 33.20%. Nigeria's inflation rate rose to 33.69% in April as prices of food and non-alcoholic beverages soared.
Comparing year-on-year data, the inflation rate in April 2024 was 11.47%, points higher than in April 2023, where it stood at 22.22%. This indicates that the headline inflation rate has risen rather significantly over the past year. We're joined this morning by economist and analyst Segun Sopiton. Good morning, and thanks for joining us. I think we'll probably just start with, when people talk about inflation rate and these figures, and we're talking about year on year, it sounds a little too complicated, but what does it mean when we're talking about 33% inflation in the most simple terms?
Well, putting it simply means that according to that data, the price that you paid this time last year for bread has grown by 33%. That's so if you bought bread for 100 naira last year or 1,000 naira, you're buying it at 1,003 this year. That's what that means. And you can apply that across every other, whatever good and service that people, take part in. Unfortunately, the reality is that things are far worse than that. So the price of bread has doubled. It's 100% over the last 1 year, and the same applies to pretty much every other food item that you can talk about. And other goods and services as well. Mustn't forget that it's not just about food. So first of all, I think that it's absolutely critical that the NBS takes a look at its inflation computation methodology. They need to review this. It's absolutely critical because right now we're understating the reality. And if you're understating reality, you can't respond appropriately.
What's the effect of understating the reality?
Yeah, look, if you're saying to yourself that inflation is 33%, it's bad, because we should be in single digits. But if the reality is that your inflation rate is 60% or 70%, then you realize that, oh my goodness, I have hyperinflation. The inflation is out of control, and therefore the responses of government will be a crisis-driven response. Now it looks as if the government doesn't even realize we're in a crisis because, we've gone about policy making as though it's business as usual. Look at what the central bank has been doing. The CBN's one of its core mandates is price stability, controlling inflation. Right now the CBN governor shouldn't be doing anything else other than, rolling out measures, desperately trying to curtail this thing, but it's business as usual. And the CBN governor is even going about there's some statements that he made that made this worse. Just about 3 weeks at the IMF spring meeting, You know, the things he said there is actually the reason we're here. And I did warn against that at that time. And unfortunately, as usual, nobody would heed, you know. So here we are.
So you first of all don't even believe that 33.69%?
Oh, no, absolutely not. It's way worse. And I think anybody that is involved in any part of economics or finance will agree with you on this, will agree with me on this. All the experts have said this. The basket of goods and services that we use to compute inflation has not been updated in over 10 years. So there are new services that didn't even exist 10 years ago whose prices are probably soaring faster than other things. You're not factoring them in. So the numbers that we're getting completely understate what our reality is. And you know, the citizens can feel the reality. I know how much a crate of egg was last year. You know, this year is 4,500. As at last week, it was 2,005, you know, a year ago. That's 100%.
I mean, at the first branch used to be 1,200.
Yeah, exactly. Just about a year. It's 5,000 naira now. So we're talking 300% on some items. We're talking 400% on some items. So there is no way inflation is 33%. We're joking. We're not serious.
Okay. So now you've talked about how some of the factors that have led to this would be the policies that we've made. Would you like to analyze some of the policies? Of course, the most popular ones everyone's talked about would be the subsidy, and of course there's one other.
The exchange rates.
Exchange rates. Thank you. Floating the naira. Exactly. Yeah. So are those two the sole culprits to blame for where we are? Are there more?
Oh, there's more. So those two are the ones that triggered the crisis, the spiral. But before then, you remember that before this administration came on board, inflation was already, 20-something%. It was already too high. But when they came on and then, took subsidies out, floated the naira, things simply exploded. Before then, the other problem we have, if you look at money supply today, it's 92. I just checked. The last report from the CBN, as at March, it's 92 trillion naira. As at December 2022, it was 54 trillion. So it's doubled in about a year plus. That's inflation. There's no, because that's demand pull inflation. There's cost push, there's demand pull. So for the demand pull inflation, the money supply is way too high. And the CBN, the money supply is not responding to CBN's policy measures. The standard reaction to that is to increase MPR. So they've done that 6%, 600 basis points in the last two meetings. Nothing has changed. It's dropped from 95 trillion as at January. It's dropped to 92 trillion in March. So the increases have not resulted in the kind of abatement in money supply that we would need to have to also see demand pull inflation reduce. So there's that. But I think the real culprits are those two that you mentioned. It's the subsidy removal, grievous, deadly mistake, and the floating of the naira. Another very bad mistake. So
at that time, it didn't look like a mistake. It looks like then the forces of demand and supply would eventually, cause the naira to find its rate. But at that time, a number of economists were not saying what they're saying now. I'm even sure if I asked you at that time, you would have thought it was a fantastic idea.
I said exactly what I'm saying now.
Oh, right.
Exactly. I said it. I warned strenuously. Check. I warned on this station. I warned on every platform. Do not do this thing. If you do it, things are going to go out of control, and it will be difficult to bring it back. I said that there will be a collapse. In fact, we're going to run into a crisis. And I've been proven right. The reason is simple. Our economic fundamentals are too weak for you to release your economy to market forces. We simply don't have the strength at the foundation of our economy. There's poverty in the land. That poverty factor alone is supposed to be enough to make any, choosing my words carefully, any sensible policymaker to pause, to pause and factor that into everything you're trying to do. Because you're talking 133, by the government's own admission, 133 million Nigerians out of 200 million living in multi-dimensional poverty. You can't take subsidies out in an economy like that. Yeah. There will be a crisis. The United States of America, one of the most prosperous nations in the world today, still subsidizes food till today. The UK still subsidizes energy till today. So we've taken subsidies out of petroleum products. We do not have enough power supply, but we've taken subsidies out of that as well, just recently.
Yes.
Right? And then we floated our naira. And then when we floated our naira, the CBN says that we're having a managed float, which means that there will be occasional interventions to keep the range within a band. But then the central bank governor goes to an international meeting, the IMF no less, and says that no, we have no intention of defending the naira, that it will be willing buyer, willing seller, price discovery.
You shouldn't have said that.
That was a grievous error because there was an immediate reaction from foreign portfolio investors. They pulled their monies out, because we do not have hedge products in this country. The derivatives fund, the derivative market in Nigeria is not mature. It's not deep enough. So you can't get any futures, you can't get forwards, you can't get options or swaps, right? Those are the things that people would traditionally use to hedge their bets against a foreign currency fluctuation, So because we don't have that, it's important that the CBN, in its messaging, assures the public that they will do what they need to do to keep prices stable within a certain band. The CBN did exactly the opposite when the CBN governor spoke, and the reaction was immediate. The following week,
was it not because maybe at
FPIs
that
dropped.
time, because we saw that at that point the naira had gained for a certain
Absolutely.
period. Some money had been
Absolutely.
pumped into the economy. Debts were being paid, and we're all excited. And of course, a number of people had then started to politicize it, with some saying that he's defending the naira from the external reserve. So was he not maybe saying that to sort of explain to them that this is not exactly what we're doing? And why? Can you explain what happened at that time, where there was some temporary
gain?
So there were some policy measures that the CBN had put in place that indeed attracted foreign portfolio investors, a bit of foreign direct investment, but not enough of that yet, and pushing for foreign remittances, diaspora remittances to come in. Those measures worked. So we saw a bump. It was a significant bump in FPI inflows compared to last year. 400% increase in FPI inflows into Nigeria in January, February, and March. Right? So that had an impact on the exchange rate. Supply came in, which obviously affected price. And then another thing that the CBN did was intervening. So the CBNs intervened to the tune of about $600 billion in the first quarter of this year through the BDCs, where it pumped in about $60 billion. Sorry, $60 million, very small, thereabouts. But then it intervened in the NAFEM, in the autonomous foreign exchange market, to the tune of about $500 million, right? So those interventions plus the inflows from FPIs resulted in the abatement that we saw. Now, when the CBN governor made that statement at the IMF, what immediately happened is that because there were no hedge products, foreign portfolio investors realized that they were running a risk remaining in this market, and they pulled out.
All right.
It crashed. And then, of course, so what that meant is that supply had reduced, so price will go up.
Yeah.
And,
all right.
So that was a bad mistake.
We need to wrap up in a bit. I want to ask, what advice you would have given if you were to speak with, Yemi Cardoso. Of course, you were in a room to advise on, what possible steps must be taken, and also, do these things actually work in Nigeria? Because there's economic. If you go through universities, I'm sure that they'll teach you, okay, this is what you do to mitigate inflation. But is the Nigerian reality the type that textbook steps do not work?
Well, the Nigerian reality is the Nigerian reality. So for every country, their reality is different.
Yeah.
And you find, if you check the Asian tigers and China in particular, you find that the measures they took were unique to their own reality. So we need to do that. Nigeria's economy will respond to any economic theory, because we're not on Mars, we're on Earth. So it will work, but we have peculiarities that we need to factor in, and we're not doing enough of that. So for example, I would say, to answer your second question, to the CBN governor, as a matter of urgency, drag in diaspora remittances. We have, I can't remember the numbers, like 4 million Nigerians abroad. Most of them are doing tremendously well. Most of them. There are some that are, struggling and all that. But even the ones that are struggling, you find that compared to the reality we have at home, they can send in little bits and pieces of money, right? So what are the policy measures that we can put in place to bump up that number significantly in as quick a time as possible.
Yes.
The CBN is licensing 14 additional IMTOs, International Money Transfer Organizations. That's not going to do anything because the problem is not access to those channels. The problem is that people don't see why they should bring their monies in, and that when they bring it in, they don't get commensurate value. So how do we address that problem is what the CBN needs to do. Because if you move diaspora remittances from circa $20 billion that it trends at now and move it to 40 billion, that's significant. It will move the needle significantly. And it's something that can happen quickly because we're talking about human beings. So if you give them policy instruments, investment outlets, India has a very robust non-resident Indian investment program that they use to drag in investments from their diasporans. So Nigeria needs to do something like that. And then we need to go back to our FPIs, the foreign portfolio investors, and beg them and give them reassurance. Cardoso made a mistake. He should admit it and bring these monies back in. The Naira will stabilize again, and then we can continue to work on the long-term, medium-term to long-term measures to maintain that stability.
Well, I hope he's listening.
All right, Chair Bishop Whitton, thank you very much for talking with us. We hope that beyond all this, that we start to see the practicality of it reflected in the prices of goods and services, because that's what the average man really is asking for. We're going to break, and when we come back, there's more conversations, or rather, we'll just go straight into the next conversation. The All Progressives Congress in Igbotako Ward 2, Okitipupa local government area of Ondo State has suspended the senator representing Ondo South, Jimoh Ibrahim. The senator was alleged to have been involved in anti-party activities.
Senator Ibrahim's suspension is coming after he lost in the party's April 20th primary, which was won by Governor Lucky Aiyedatiwa. Ibrahim went further to sue the party and the governor after the national party chairman of the APC, Alhaji Abdullahi Ganduje, had enjoined party governorship aspirants to support the party's candidate. Additionally, Senator Ibrahim has been accused of engaging in anti-party activities by urging his supporters in Igbotako and Ondo State to join NNPP, claiming he will soon receive the gubernatorial ticket from them. We're joined this morning by Ondo State APC chieftain and public affairs analyst Oni Olalekong. Good morning and thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Good morning for having me this morning.
Great to have you. There's people who had predicted that this would occur. I did see a few people say that right after the primaries, that one person is definitely, going to go to court. I've also seen Senator Jimoh Ibrahim stating or pointed out areas in the primary elections that he says elections did not hold, according to the INEC documents. But let's get your brief thoughts on what, if he is justified, for his complaints, and what, has happened so far.
Well, so far, after the election, after the primary exercise on April 28th, different aspirants have had their complaints, complaining about how the whole exercise went. Almost all the aspirants had one or two issues. In fact, truth of the matter was that none of the aspirants was able to vote on April 28th. Fast forward to, after the election, the National Working Committee set up, before the primary, set up an appeal committee for aspirants who had one or two issues to table their, complaints and all of that. Aspirants submitted their appeal and all of that, their complaints and all of that, and the appeal committee came up with the fact that, they threw out their complaints and all of that. Senator Jimoh Ibrahim submitted additional documents to back up his claims that there was no election and all of that. The party didn't listen to him, and then he went to court. And what the party constitution said was that after exhausting all internal mechanism complaints from the party, you can go to court. So what Jimoh Ibrahim has done, I don't think he has in any way flouted the party constitution. Yesterday it came up that some party members, 16 out of 27 Ward ESCO members, came up with the fact that they are suspending Senator Jimoh Ibrahim. First, even before now, these same executives of Igbotako Ward 2 has, passed a full vote of confidence on Senator Jimoh Ibrahim. So everybody was shocked and surprised that some of these ESCO members also came up again to say that they are suspending Barrister Jimoh Ibrahim. But we knew that, with all of this is politics and this is political time and all of that, we know that some people are behind all of these things, I'm talking about this suspension that came up yesterday. But, we are waiting to hear because we have two instances, not even just one, after the primary exercise, where the Ward ESCOs came up to say that they have they passed a vote of confidence on Senator Jimoh Ibrahim, that they are supporting whatever he's doing, that they are also sure that there was no election on April 20 in Igbotako Ward 2. But we are waiting for the response of Senator Jimoh Ibrahim.
Okay, we've seen that there's been, like you've mentioned already, several people taking different sides of the divide. We've seen about 29 senators here. We have reported that 29 executive members in the ward voted, saying that they, of course, support the suspension, and 55 others saying that, you know, they passed a vote of confidence on Senator Jimoh Ibrahim. What does this say about the party and, you know, the internal dynamics of what's going on within the party?
Well, my opinion about this is that, you see, like I said earlier, it's about politics, politics, and politics. If you look at the numbers of people who came out to pen their signature for the suspension, for the purported suspension yesterday, there were 16. Irregularly, you know, you have 27 ward ESCO members in every ward. But what we had yesterday was 16. If you say, what does it purport, what does it show, or what does it say about the party? Well, it is politics, and we're in politics time, you know, you experience different kind of things when it comes to politics and all of this. But I believe surely that, you see, the party in Ondo State said that there's a reconciliation. They came up with a reconciliation committee, even though some of these people that are on the list of the reconciliation have pulled out. But if you say you are doing reconciliation, you know, how come you are also having, you know, something like this, trying to suspend Senator Jimoh Ibrahim because he went to court? I believe that going to court is his fundamental human rights. And he has said that he's not fighting the party. He just wanted to fight the injustice that took place on April 20, 2024.
Right, okay. And you know, the party have said that they're not, according to the reports, they say they're not aware of what's happening at the ward level, and we can't disregard the politics that happens at the ward level. Also talk about the strength of, you know, Senator Jimoh Ibrahim as a politician and the influence that he wields in the state.
Well, you see, Senator Jimoh Ibrahim, for me and for every member of APC in Ondo State, knows that currently everybody knows that he is the current senator representing Ondo South Senatorial District in the Red Chamber. And then beyond that, he has been in the politics, he has been around, I think, since 2003. He has been contesting as governor, he has, you know, under different parties and all of that. So nobody jokes with his influence in Ondo State. Everybody knows what he is capable of doing and all of that. So, you know, the strength in which, the followership he has, everything within his, you know, within his area of influence in Ondo South. Nobody jokes with him, and everybody knows. And this is my point. Go for reconciliation. You know, if you are able, this suspension will even add more to the intrigues and to the chaos and to the problems of the party in Ondo State. I advise that as long as it will take, there should be reconciliation with Senator Jimoh Ibrahim because of the general election. You don't joke with somebody who has thousands of followers behind him, beyond the South Senatorial District, across Ondo State. He has a large followership. Then you don't joke with such person. His influence is big, his influence is massive.
All right, and of course, you know, this would be, you know, advice to Governor Aiyedatiwa. Is there any other intrigues, you know, that might be around, you know, the APC politics, you know, concerning the governor directly now?
Well, you know, the governor has been declared the winner of the primary amidst all controversies, you know, because I said amidst all controversies because we have, you know, we have so many aggrieved members. The primary that took place, the primary exercise that took place on April 20 has polarized the party even much more than, you know, we've ever had in Ondo State. So for the governor,
primary elections you're speaking of, was it, you know, seen to be free and fair and, you know, without crisis, or you know, is it one of those that just has so many discrepancies that, you know, I mean, it was expected that there will be these, you know, complaints?
Well, it wasn't actually expected that we'll have such complaints. All aspirants were expecting that there will be a free and fair election or primary election on April 20. But unfortunately, in fact, majority of Ondo State APC members will tell you that there was no election on April 20, 2024. And if you look at the case, the brief of Senator Jibo Ibrahim's case at the Federal High Court, what he said, one of his briefs is that out of the 203 wards across the state, there was only election in about 54. That means that over 70% of the polling units across the state, there was no election in about 149 polling centers, which is wards across the state. So that tells you how the kind of primary exercise that took place then. So it was, we cannot, in fact, the major things people are saying on the street is that there was no election. So if there was no election, there's nothing like free and fair. But for the governor, I will advise that he goes for reconciliation and ensure that he reaches out to other aspirants, especially Senator Jibo Ibrahim.
All right. We will, of course, we'll keep following up with the updates in Ondo South and to see exactly how this turns out for the political party. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
All right, we'll look forward to having you.
The automobile industry in Nigeria has experienced significant growth over the past few years, with an increasing number of new cars being imported into the country. Nigeria heavily relies on the importation of vehicles to meet its domestic demand, and the country imports vehicles from various countries, including the United States, Japan, and Europe. However, recently, some brands have gained prominence, especially from Asia.
In 2021, imports of vehicles reached around $2.3 billion, with 60% being passenger cars. Nigeria is also a significant net importer of automotive components sourced mainly from China and South Africa. Today, many have expected that the National Automotive Industry Development Plan, NAIDP 2014, would have kicked in, thereby supporting local production and assemblage of vehicles. In all this, GAC has taken charge to ensure it assembles its vehicles here in Nigeria. Well, joining us today on the show is Executive Director of GAC Motors. And of course, we are very, very excited to have him join us. Ladies and gentlemen, please, we have Jubril Arogundade, who's the Executive Director. Good morning. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much.
First of all, I think we'll start by congratulating you on your appointment.
Thank you.
On the 1st of May, you started your new office as Executive Director. Congratulations on that.
Thank you very much.
All right. Let's talk about your organization and how exactly that has it's been able to navigate the many challenges that face the automobile industry here in Nigeria. Several challenges, from inadequate infrastructure to high import duties. What would you say has been the most challenging? I know that you've had, I mean, you're just a few days as Executive Director, but you've worked, you know, in this for a while. So talk to us about what you would say has been the biggest challenge you've had to deal with and how GAC has been able to navigate it and continues to thrive in Nigeria.
Thank you very much. It's good to be here this morning. I would say, first of all, that we all understand how the economy of Nigeria is. And for you to strive as a business, you have to have more than just passion and to be able to be in the game. For GAC Motors, what we have done over the years is to understand that we're here to stay in Nigeria. And for a business that has long lifespan, we need to adjust as the economy adjusts. So the first challenge is the issue of importation, as you all know, the cost for clearing of the vehicles and all of that. And then moving the vehicle from the port to the factory where you do your assembly. The cost for transportation also is not determined by you, the factory owner. So the cost is determined by, you know, the economy as well. So a lot of challenges are faced, but the first area I would like to speak about is the fact that as a country, we need to understand the importance of automobile industry. For a country like Nigeria that is going through the kind of crisis we're going through now, with inflation, with everything, the automobile industry is strong enough to actually reshape Nigeria. If it's been done all over the world, it's been done in advanced countries in the world. And Nigeria also, because of our population, we have that serious advantage. So what we've done is to keep working with the economy, looking at the market, and most importantly, making sure that our buyers are very close to us, being able to provide vehicles for them, for their needs in different areas of the sector. We've almost taken over the B2B part of the business, where most of the banks now today and the blue chip company now use GAC as official cars. So the buying power is very low in the country. Everybody wants to afford a brand new car, but they can't buy it because of the buying power. So what we do is we bring in products that are very durable, very, very good, but the price is very affordable as well.
Yeah.
And that is what has kept us in the market.
Yeah, I mean, it's also actually where I was going. You probably need to also expand a little bit more, because I know that for a long time, 70s, 80s, 90s, Nigerians have been used to buying Asian brands, of cars, Japanese and the like. So what exactly about GAC has, given it the edge in the market? Why has it, become the choice brand?
Okay, so GAC Motors is Guangzhou Automobile Company in China, better than Guangzhou. And we say in Nigeria that GAC is very indigenous, is made for more, is made for Nigeria actually. The first thing that has made GAC successful in Nigeria is understanding the market. When we came into the market, we didn't just come into the market to sell vehicles. We came into the market to partner with the people, understand their needs, their culture, the way they react to especially vehicle, and then being able to provide them vehicles that actually meet their demand. Those are the things that we have done. But in the world today, there's an era of America, there's an era of the Europe in automobile, and also we have the era of the Japanese. And you would agree with me today that it's the era of Chinese. If you go to China today, you would see over 200 car manufacturing factories in China. And in everywhere you go is electric cars and everything. So a country like Nigeria, where we have issues with petrol, the cost of fuel and everything. So we're looking for affordable cars that are very fuel economic. So for GAC Motors, our vehicles are very, very good with the Nigerian road because of the suspension. The suspension of GAC is by McPherson, the #1 suspension company in the world. The body of the cars are steel, they are not plastic. They are very rugged, and they are also very techy. The interior of the car is like you're sitting in a very luxurious vehicle. Yeah. So Nigerians, we like aesthetics, we like beautiful things. So the beauty, the strength of the car, and most importantly, the price. The price needs to work for you to be able to survive in Nigeria.
I'm very glad that you mentioned price, because like you mentioned, the number of Nigerians who want brand new vehicles but are not able to afford it. So most then settled for either Nigerian used cars or foreign used cars, like we call them Tokumba vehicles.
Yes.
But talk to us about the plan, what currently exists within the GAC Motors Group that affords Nigerians the opportunity to be able to buy new cars. Okay. For example, we see abroad where people can buy cars on mortgage, pay in bits. Is there a plan like that here in Nigeria? What exactly is GAC doing in that regard? Thank
you very much. I think about 4 years ago, we started a project called the Drive Now, Pay Later. And that scheme is changing the industry, actually. It's changing the industry. And every automobile brand in Nigeria is keying into it. So what we've done is to partner with strategic banks to provide finance for customers that want to buy the GAC car that can afford to pay 100%. And actually paying 100% for a vehicle in today's world, it's not normal. And that is only normal in Nigeria. Mm-hmm. So that anomaly, we need to look for a way to remove it and make it, the business, because the business of automobile in Nigeria is quite bigger than what we are doing now. The entire country for brand new car, we are doing not more than 20,000 units in a year, where we have a population of about 200 million people, and we can do 1 million brand new car sale every year in Nigeria, becoming the African leader for automobile, and we can export to other African countries. So so what we've done is partner with those banks, and what we did differently that is making it work for us and get us the kind of mileage that we are getting now is because we've been able to not just design a product where you go into the bank and then maybe your interest rate is 33% today. We design a product where we use the cost of the vehicle to design a special bespoke product where your interest rate is reduced by almost 50% of whatever the market value is. So when you walk into a bank to buy a GAC car, instead of paying maybe 30%, you'll be paying around maybe 15, 20%, depending on that. And that has been the magic, and that's working for us. And
yeah, I mean, and this, I mean, from the figures, cuts across, every income level in Nigeria. Yes. And everybody, should be able to afford.
Yes, because we have vehicles, from the saloon and the SUV, the mini SUVs, like the Lag Ride, the 1,000 car with the Lagos State government. So those vehicles are also, people use them for personal use and corporate use as well. And we're able to position them in a sense that when you want to buy a brand new car, you don't have to break the bank to buy a brand new car.
Yeah.
You talked about partnering with banks. Are you also partnering with individuals?
Yes, we are. In GAC as well and CIG, what has worked for us is partnership. We believe that the new crude in business today is partnership. We've used partnership, like we started with the likes of Alhaji Dangote, where we partner with the foundation to donate cars to the police. And so we've done amazing partnership that has given us the manage that we have today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also want to talk about, a concern when Nigerians see this, because I mean, this is an opportunity for you to just clarify all these things.
Yes.
When Nigerians see these type of cars and, their first reaction is, where are the spare parts? How are we going to fix this one, in this country, So how has the GAC group been able to kill those fears and let you know that, get a car, it is easily serviceable here in Nigeria?
Okay, so for every automobile company that survives any market, your strength has to be your after sales.
Yes.
The first sale is done by a salesman like me. The second sale is done by the after sales. So what we've done is that for every car we bring into the country, if the car is a 5 years warranty period, we also provide spares that can stay up to 5 to take care of the car in that 5 years for that one car. So for everywhere you go in Nigeria, we have our after sales facility around the country, Lagos, Abuja, Port Harcourt, and then we have sub-dealers in all the 36 states. So you can service our GAC car as far as Jigawa State. You can service our GAC car as far as Nasarawa State. You can Delta State, everywhere in Nigeria. So the spare parts are readily available everywhere. And the unique thing about GAC is that the parts are original. So you can't go to the market and find any fake GAC parts, and which is one of the most important components of the automobile industry. Because when you have cars breaking down on the road because of bad parts that are used in repairing those cars, that also creates a lot of problem. You hardly see any GAC car broken on the road for the past 10 years we're in Nigeria. Everywhere you see a GAC car is looking new. And we've introduced a new system, a scheme called the swap 2 years ago, where you can bring in your old GAC car and take a brand new one. And so those are the kind of innovations and innovative way we are driving the market and changing the narrative, for the automobile industry.
I think that right now it's a bit of a tight time for the average Nigerian. There's a lot of tension with the rising cost in inflation, food inflation, and some would say that the economy is not as stable. Many would agree that the economy is not as stable as it should be. How would you say this is impacting the GAC brand, in today's reality? Has it affected business?
I think this is affecting everybody.
Yes, it is.
For an automobile brand like us, it's affecting us even hugely. But what we've done is to also look at the economy and look at the buyers and say, okay, if we don't have to make all the profit today, we just need to keep in business. So when the dollar changes, the price changes. So we do, for instance, I'll give you an example. In 2 months now, the price has changed twice for us. And when the dollar is coming down to 1,100, our price is crashing down to over 20 million less. When the dollar becomes now 1,600, our price is going up again. So it's what it is. And so we just try as much as possible to position ourselves to say we are not just doing business just for the sake of business, but we need to take care of our customers. Without them, we are nothing, right? So we need to take care of them. We need to make sure that we are positioning our price according to the actual markup that we should get, and we're able to sell at every time. And it will amaze you that even with the whole hardship this period, people prefer to buy a GAC car now than buying a Tokumbo. Because even the Tokumbo cars are not cheap no more.
No, they're not.
Right,
Yeah.
and they are also, how you can buy a Tokumbo car and then you start repairing the cars, almost immediately you buy the car. But with the GAC car, you have full 5 years warranty. You enjoy your car. Your first service is free on us.
I was about to ask about the servicing.
Your first service is free on us. We also have an SLA, both personal and a corporate SLA, where you can sign with us and you don't have to think about how to repair your car. Send your driver to the workshop. They fix your car. You pay at the end of the month. So we have some very amazing features that makes us unique in the market.
The Nigerian government has also, brought up its own, automotive schemes, lately to assist the market and, of course, assist, Nigerians be able to buy, cars. Has that helped? And, of course, what would you rate that whole process?
Yeah, so I think that it's a good initiative that the government is doing, but I would say that the government needs to play a big more deeper role in making all of this work. Just a policy of the government can change the narrative of every business. And when we were talking about creating the auto finance scheme and creating that finance for the Nigerian populace to be able to buy brand new cars, the government need to deepen their relationship with the car manufacturers more, the players in the business, the sellers of these vehicles, understanding their actual need, understanding how to model the scheme. Because some of these projects, when you create them outside the industry,
yes,
with the understanding you have maybe from the trade ministry area, it's not enough, right? So you need to sit with the industry itself, sit with the players of the industry, and then sit with the finance guys as well. I'm talking from the central bank to the private banks as well, to be able to design really something that can work. Our credit system in Nigeria is very poor. People don't know how to take loan and pay back easily. So we must design something that is hand-to-hand and can protect that scheme to be successful. If not, we'll just hear the scheme in the news and it won't have any effect on the business.
Well, if Portable had bought a car from you guys, apparently they wouldn't have had...
We would have had the problem having that.
You wouldn't have had to sign that kind of agreement in the first place as well.
I'll tell you.
All right, as we wrap up the conversation, what would you say are your projections for where you want to see GAC now that you are the executive director? Where do we expect to see you in years from now, and how can people access more information about the brand?
Okay, so it's very simple for us. So GAC Motors, we are looking at in a few years to become the market leader of the automobile industry in Nigeria. And not just market leader by the market share of how many vehicles we've sold on the road, but market leader by the entire ecosystem of the business, from manufacturing to providing solutions to other players as well in the system. For every home that needs to use a car, a GAC car must be in your fleet, and that's the vision for us. Yeah. And then also providing affordable transportation solution. The Lagrai project, the phase 2 of the project is coming up soon, and we'll be launching more cars into the market where individuals don't need to take their cars from home again. You can keep your car in the house, drive a very beautiful GAC Lagrai car from your home to your work, and so change the economy, change our environment, change how people see brand new car sales, and reduce carbon emission from the used cars that are dumped here in the country, and most importantly also employ more people, more Nigerians. Our factory today, we have so many people in the factory, and about 98% of the workers in the factory are all Nigerians. And every GAC car that is driven in Nigerian road is assembled here in Nigeria. And so for us in the future, we want to have a full-scale manufacturing factory where from hand to hand, everything is manufactured and is made in Nigeria.
And the cars are really attractive. Yeah, I think they've been flashing on screen lately. For those who have, I don't know where you've been, but if you haven't seen a GAC car, you've been under a rock. They're really, really sleek. They're attractive. They, and of course the interior also. I don't know if you have pictures of those, but absolutely really, really beautiful cars. I also want to talk, about if you can share like a price range. Do you have a price range for some of these vehicles?
Yeah, so if not for the dollar, life would be easier. But our prices are ranged from around maybe 25 million up to 100 million. And then we have, so GAC we call ourselves the king of the SUV because we have SUV for every class. So there's the mini SUV, there's a crossover SUV, there's a full-blown, and we also have an MPV. So for every vehicle need, we should be able to provide whatever you need.
Are there any doubts as to the power of these vehicles?
I think 10 years ago, when you mentioned GAC, and people say, what is GAC? But today, when you mention GAC, it's a force because we have come to the industry and we have changed the narrative. And you can see the flood of Chinese vehicles, Asian vehicles that are coming to Nigeria because of the success of GAC.
All right. So, we certainly look forward to GAC being, like you said, us having everything done from start to finish here in Nigeria. But first of all, finally, I would just say congratulations. Look forward to see more opportunities for GAC. We look forward to see more GAC cars on the way,
Yes.
on the roads, from the small scale to the larger scale.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you very much for joining us. We've of course been speaking with Jubril Arogudade, who is the ED of GAC. We'll go on a break, and when we come back, there's more to come. Stay with us.
And great to have you back. It's now time to get into the newspapers and share with you the major stories making headlines across Nigeria this morning. You can also be a part of the conversation. The phone lines will be on your screen, and you can share your thoughts on any of the stories that gets your attention. We're joined this morning by Razak Olokogba, who is a public affairs analyst. Good morning, and thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Interesting times across Nigeria. I'm guessing you've been following the stories from Rivers State to the new minimum wage. But let's see which one, of course, we'll start with. Let's start with This Nigeria, the newspapers this morning. I think that's what we're kicking off with. Oh, the Punch. Okay, let's start with the Punch newspapers. It says that minimum wage. Labour dumps negotiation over federal government's 48,000 naira proposal. Negotiation has broken down. 48,000 amounts to wage reduction, says the unions. Tinubu to tackle power outages with 2 gas plants. Imported food prices rise as inflation hits 3.6%, says the NBS. And also, Rivers waves off 5 pro-Wike commissioners' resignation. Western democracy model not working for Nigeria, Obasanjo insists. Also this morning, Emefiele implemented Naira swap without Buhari's approval, says the EFCC. That's a very interesting one, because I remember that there's still pictures online of the president standing right next to Governor Emefiele, taking pictures with the new currency and with the new Naira. So I don't know how they can defend saying that they approved it without the president's approval. Anyway, we'll find out. Federal government eyes $2.7 billion revenue from marine sector. And of course, autopsy failed to reveal cause of Mohbad's death, says a pathologist. Daily Independent newspaper comes up next. It says here, Labour pulls out of negotiations over federal government's offer of 48,000 naira. Says proposal, insult to the sensibilities of Nigerian workers. Nigeria's inflation rises further to 33.69%, highest in 28 years. Reps disagree. Step down motion to probe 40 presidential aircraft. Senate asks Tinubu to stop fund allocation to caretaker committee-led local governments. We can also find the NUC to ASU. Federal government working on continuing varsities governing councils. Atiku kicks against plan to deploy 20 trillion naira pension fund on infrastructure and others. 5 pro-Wike commissioners resign from Fubara's cabinet. And also, 1 year not enough to judge Tinubu's government. All right, let's start with that statement from Bishop Kuka, and then we'll move from there to the Emefiele story. 1 year not enough. You agree?
It's always been my thoughts, and my thought is shared with many experts that there's always a gestation period for any government. And for me, 2 years is the best time we should be looking at for any government that came in place. For instance, the security challenges we have identified that there must be numerous layers to tackle our security in Nigeria, that a single layer that we run cannot guarantee us the desired level of security that we want. 250 million people, places side by side with less than 200,000 police we have in Nigeria. It can't work. So before any government could do anything about security situation, debate around it is still going on. The decision to take whether we should go back to state police like we usually have in the 60s up until 1966, maybe we should go back to that. It's going to take a while.
Yes.
Then the economy that is fluctuating, dollar determines indices of economy in Nigeria. So forex and issues like that. So moving away from that, you talk about challenges, numerous other issues. So stability is around 2 years. And I agree with Kuka that we must brace up. But are we doing the right thing? That's the question we should be asking ourselves. Because it's 2 years for you to graduate. That's if the student passes. So if you didn't pass, and that is what we must address. That we must begin to point the right direction to the president and to the government. And one of it is that the responsibility of the president of Nigeria is so enormous. Look at what Obasanjo is saying now. I was part of 2 delegations to Obasanjo on this same structure, on this pattern of democracy of practice, that democracy essentially is not election every 4 years. But he disagreed with us, only for him to agree after 20 years of office. So what I mean is that, my point is that the need for us to be able to offer necessary support for the government is the only guarantee that you can talk about 2 years of seeing light at the end of the tunnel.
So for now, we shouldn't judge the Tinubu administration.
No, we should be judging, but
Okay.
we should not. We should be judging by being assertive. That if you say 2 years, we must also add to it that you must do the right thing. Nothing has been done about the whole question of the state police. The way the power sector is being handled, I'm not impressed, because the president needs to give the state a matching order to come and pick up the offer to start generating light and solving challenges on power sector in their state. So he's not doing that, and it's not going to up. He's talking about 2 power stations now.
Yes.
See, all these are tendencies that has been exhibited by previous presidents, that it will appear as if you are sorting out the issue, but you are not. Up until the time we devolve power on critical sectors in this country, we will just be rigmaroling. And we have signed a note of warning to assure you that all the people that surrounds you may not be giving you the feelers of what people feel in town. The feeler is that they are yet not impressed about what the president is doing. But it's difficult for a president to agree with you if the people around him are not telling him the basic truth. And I've had similar experiences in our engagement with the previous president. We have had meetings with Obasanjo, who said that anybody that said is not doing it is an opposition. We have had a similar experience with several meetings we had with President Jonathan. At times, headlines of newspaper, the president won't know, not only Jonathan. You know, so the picture we see about Obasanjo, the picture we see about Jonathan, where a president is being circled, is what we are seeing now again. And that is why you need to break it. It needs to break that shackle. You need to understand that we can't go anywhere with what we have at the moment. And he has a clear understanding of what we are talking about. He's not someone that will just be educating about political structure, the peculiarity of Nigeria, the need to do certain things.
All right.
We can't educate him about it. He knows so much about it.
Oh, wow. We'll see. Emefiele implemented Naira swap without Buhari's approval, says the EFCC.
It's likely to seem so, because nobody will touch Emefiele if he got the presidential approval. Nobody will be harassing him now. And that is why sovereignty of the country.
When you say he didn't get presidential approval, are you saying that the president was not aware that there was a Naira swap plan?
I'm reading the preamble.
Okay.
Sovereignty of the country, foreign policies, and a few other things is the work of the president. It is easy for the president of Nigeria to be distracted the way it is being structured, because he has numerous responsibilities. So, if here is not taken, Emefiele may get approval, but the president will feign ignorance because of the level of work that our president engages in this country. So, he needs to prove himself that he got the approval from the president. But if he wants to be nailed, it will be difficult for him to get out of it, because then the Minister for Finance came out that time that he's not aware of the Naira swap, and that is an administrative error. That is a procedural error. The Minister for Finance is the coordinating minister of our economy. So if you want to engage on policy as critical and sensitive of that nature, if the minister is not aware of it, that's not too good for Emefiele. And if it is true that he's not aware of such a thing,
but it's not possible. I don't.
But he came out to say that.
Who came out to say?
Then the Minister for Finance then said that.
I'm talking about the president. I'm not talking about the minister. Of course, may have been blindsided, but the president,
That's an error. That's an error in a country where.
I agree, but the current argument is whether President Buhari approved, was aware, and approved, the Naira redesign.
The procedure is that the minister should be in the know. That's the procedure. So if it's not in the know,
you're talking about the finance minister now. But we're talking about Mr. President. The EFCC claims that Mr. President did not give approval, was not aware.
If 3 signatories are supposed to give approval, and the minister, as sensitive as he is, that is not aware, that endangers the position that the president is aware. That's a problem already.
So are you saying President Muhammadu Buhari was not aware?
That's what I'm saying that.
And didn't approve an Naira redesign?
That's what I'm saying.
The same president that took pictures with the new Naira, with Godwin Emefiele, that is on record. I just can't can't play it now because we don't have it on screen. The videos where he defended it. Is that the same president that was not aware?
That's what I'm saying, that we run Nigeria in a very complex manner. And one of the complexity has come out during the Naira design. It is wrong for the Minister of Finance not to be aware of such a thing. And if he's not aware, that means that Naira may have to be reversed at the end of the day, because that means the necessary upheaval was not offered. Because that's a whole ministry that presides over half of the job of what the CBN is doing. And if he's taking behind that such a ministry to the president directly, it's wrong. So the whole process at that time is not a clear and it's not a neat one. What we had in mind was that because the security of the currency must be protected, only for us to realize that that was not the intention of that. So Emefiele needs to do more in that direction. And the president of Nigeria has an attitude, former president, they have an attitude of not saying things about the administration.
The only thing I'm trying to clarify here is, how is it possible that President Buhari or former President Muhammadu Buhari can claim to not be aware?
That's why he needs to speak up. The president needs to speak up. That he took a picture, which is an endorsement. To all Nigerians, an endorsement.
Okay.
It's an endorsement.
So what is this claim that EFCC is making, that he wasn't aware?
Well, that's why I have to quickly remind you that there may be a procedural error. And the procedural error was the issue Minister of Finance pointed out that we are not aware of it. And you know very well that if a country's currency is being debated and the ministry is absent, that's a big clause.
I remember that. But Elder David, good morning. Go ahead. Elder David, can you hear us?
Good morning, sir.
Morning. Go ahead quickly.
Thank you very much, sir. The minimum wage, the union, they should continue to negotiate because that is their own job. They are there because what their own salary is based on the take-up dues of the workers. And they should continue to negotiate with the government. It's not final. And this is the first government that within 1 year, not even up to 1 year, we are talking of salary increase. The government have offered their own. They decide to go back and negotiate for the interest of Nigerian workers. But remember, it's not only Nigerian workers we are talking about. What of the pensioners? What of the jobless youth? What of the other people because of situation in the country? That is that. And another thing I want to warn, and Nigerians should be very careful. All this issue of I want to strengthen people and others because of our zero connection with Labour Party, which has never happened in this country. That the president of the NSC, the president should belong to a party. In London, you see worker unions who belong to Labour Party. Even when the other one was there by that time, it doesn't happen. Wabba does not do that. Then, as for parliamentary system of government, what about the joint implemented? Don't you know it's a dictatorship government that when you are prime minister, you can rule for as long as you remain there? What about the joint implemented when it was there? Is it because of our job belongs to Labour is now suggesting that? This was the man that closed us at 4 parastatus and make us jobless. We lost our pension 2004 and up to today. All those boys who are there today that are jobless that could have got work from those parastatus, they now call them Yahoo boys and others. While their children are abroad, enjoy the good things of life.
All right, Elder David.
So whatever Ambassador just said is political.
All right.
A member of Labour Party supporting Obi.
All right, thanks a lot. Because of time, let's quickly get you to speak on the Labour pulling out of negotiations. Federal government offers 48,000 naira minimum wage, and also stop by in River State briefly.
Well, just like our caller as Elder David, they will keep talking to each other, and that's the pattern. Labour will pull out, they will come back again. That's the response we are assigned to do. But you see, the decision must not be taken on emotion. It should be based on data. And that is why the government has a role to play to come out with data of what is the income of the federal government, what is the capacity of the income, the government to pay 200,000 naira, 1 million naira, or 10,000 naira as a minimum wage. It's very important, and that is when Nigeria should be able to decide. The offer now is difficult for Nigerians to queue behind labor or queue behind government because there's nothing for us to be able to analyze whether the government has a capacity or not. Yes. What the government is telling us is what we only know. What the labor is telling us is what we only know. So the government needs to run this affair no longer like a court. There's the freedom of information bill, which gives the right to every Nigerian to know everything the government is. If you classify certain issues, security, of you understand. In fact, issues like that they classify later in the year. But what is the capacity of the government at the moment? What is the federal government earning at the government? Edo said he's going to pay 70,000 naira. He has that capacity. Some states say, I don't have that capacity, and came out to justify it. So the federal government too, we need more information. If the government want Nigerians to say that, oh, that's fine, it's okay, labor, you have to take it. They need to do more. We have to understand what is coming in from all the revenues. Then the loans you are seeking is to address what? I hope it's not to pay salary. If it is to pay salary, I'm not going to be in support of it. We must make do with what we have. We will then follow up by then going into what can we do about the prices, because it doesn't make sense. Since 1999, I had 10 naira to your salary, you had 10 naira to my salary. Then 2 weeks later, then my condition has become worse because salaries have gone up.
Yeah, can you hold on? Ella, good morning, go ahead.
Hi, good morning. Well done, guys. This conversation is really intriguing. I think I'd like to contribute to the NLC story, minimum wage, because honestly, I think that the government is pretty much detached from the reality of an average Nigerian. Of course, if they don't know what it means to be an average Nigerian, they don't know what it means to give us minimum wage. Even a single person who doesn't have family to feed cannot necessarily sustain on 48,000 naira. Yes, 615,000 may be too much for if we're talking about minimum wage. I don't think that's a minimum. However, 48,000. Do they even know what it costs to go to the market and buy pepper? They have no idea. So these guys, as long as they continue to be detached from the reality of Nigeria, of most Nigerians, I don't think we can talk them into giving us more. And I mean, it's so annoying that we have to even try to convince our own government to do the right thing. Why did we vote you there? Anyway, well done, guys. Thank you.
All right. Thanks a lot, Ella. I'm great to have me. All right.
So government will continue to take needless blame.
Yes.
If they don't stop what they are doing, that's shielding information that is meant to assist them in getting the required support from the people. Because if you see if you hear what Ella said, Ella is right, only to the extent that if you have the capacity to do so. If you don't have capacity to pay 30,000 naira, we have to allow the home to that we don't have the capacity. Then what we do is to go back to the drawing board. That do you need exchange rate to plant yam on our farms? What's the challenge you have to produce 1 sachet of pure water? What's the landing cost of a bag of rice? The government has not done that. So the picture Nigerians continue to have is that our government is wicked, is vicious, and they have closed their eyes to the needs of Nigeria. If they don't do the needful.
But I mean, I don't know that they are also making moves that we've seen to improve on the capacity to pay beyond 30,000. I mean, I haven't seen, a lot of these moves that the government understands that, okay, we need to increase minimum wage because we came in, we removed all subsidy, we made, new CBN policies with the Naira. And so things are 1,000 times more difficult for Nigerians now. How can we make, things better? It's not by giving up palliatives. We need to be able to maybe increase minimum wage so that people can afford it. But how can we increase our capacity to improve minimum wage? It means that we have to earn more. I don't know that they've done a lot with regards how, improving on the earnings of the government.
So it is a palliative, because when policies are taken that affects the life of Nigeria, it's not only about salary earners. There are people on the street who don't earn salary. So palliative is in 2 ways. People who have been captured that are in an organized sector, people who are not in the organized sector. So palliatives goes to people who are not in the organized sector. And for the people in the organized sector, there's always a window period of 6 months for issues like this, that the subsidy will always give us challenge for between 1 to 6 months. And after 6 months, we'll back on track. Dangote refinery will have been on board. Port Harcourt. So that's the plan. That was what bring about the issue of palliative. Then in terms of doing more things that will end government money, of course, I agree with you. And that is why in all the important sectors that contribute majorly to the world economy, oil and gas, origin, agro-allied, telecoms, and issues like that. There's only oil and gas that we major. Our major dependent is on oil, on origin, no airline. The airline is what, maybe that's why they are calling the Ghana to come and explain to uncertain. So then agro-allied is a good fit for us to make money. What are we doing about it? A responsible government must subsidize agriculture. And that is why I thought they are trying to do something about fertilizer and things like that. And you can't send children of today to school to go and start practicing cutlass and whole agriculture. Nobody will do that. You can do farming the way you look. And that's a modern trend. So I agree with you that we must begin to look only from oil and gas. We must begin to earn more income. And I think the government is doing something in that direction. But the fundamental thing that the government needs to do to be able to run the economy properly is not to cage the economy by taking over the resources of 35 states of the Federation. You must allow states to have access to their resources.
Yeah.
A state in America is about the 7th largest economy in the world today, state of California. So if you allow states to run the economy too, who says that Lagos cannot be number 7th economy in Africa too? That's the major area.
Number 3 or
the government,
number 2 even.
Yes, that's the major area the government.
So restructuring basically.
Yes.
But let's quickly. I want to also speak about River State. On the Vanguard this morning, so I'll share with you what the Vanguard says. Labour quits talks as federal government offers 48,000 naira. OPS 54,000 naira. Governors have killed local government, says the Senate. And also CNG nationwide deployment begins May 29th. Top of the screen, Rivers crisis, 5 pro-Wike commissioners resign. Atiku kicks against federal government's plan to borrow pension funds. And of course, in Edo State, Obaseki warns politicians against frustrating Palace and Enige peace talks. River State, let's start there. You know, there's more resignations from its commissioners. The drama continues.
I know I told you that what determines the kind of political structure you run in any country is who you are as a nation. America cannot run the style of government in Britain because in Britain you have numerous identities there. America has almost one religion, almost one culture, almost one race. So you can centralize your system, put it in the hand of one woman. Nobody will say he's a Yoruba man, he's a Scottish man. In Africa, particularly in Nigeria, there's a multi-dimension identity that has been given to Nigeria. And that is why every region must establish their own mechanism for resolving their problems. That is what is missing in the South. And that's what is
what's struggling with the River State.
Okay, so Fubara is not handling the situation very well. How can you go and pull a parliament down? How can you say that members of the parliament will not sit? Yeah. See, you are attracting more enemies to yourself.
All right, hold on. Yusuf, go ahead.
Okay. Good morning.
Morning, Yusuf. Go ahead, please.
Yes. I just want to comment on the issue of River State.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Please, the situation of River State is becoming hydra-headed. And I think the issue of democracy is not lawlessness. And at the same time, whatever Wike and the Fubara, whatever his name is, governor, had in secrecy is not constitutional. So, constitution suffices. And I kind of suggesting that all those people that are Democrats should come out and say whatever they had as an agreement is not known in the eyes of the law. Therefore, the constitutional provision should be applied and nothing more than that. Otherwise, this type of either godfatherism in secrecy and so on is their own, but whatever is going to be applied should be constitutional.
All right, Yusuf, thanks a lot.
So the region must have a mechanism for sorting out. We have many challenges in the Southwest too, but there's a mechanism we use. We have the crisis in Ekiti State by Fayoshe. We have the Dino crisis in
Ondo State, of course,
Ondo State is there, but there's a mechanism. There's a way it will be sorted out. You will know. I'm part of several efforts to sort out many crises in Yoruba land. We are part of our Enele crisis. We are part of Ifemodake crisis. We sorted it out. So in the region too, instead of allowing this thing to go their own way, even in the East, the Ohanese is there. They call on Ohanese several times. And you are watching these boys destroying the economy of the region. So they pay attention to it. So Edwin Clark needs to gather more elders in that region to begin to talk to his children that you cannot continue to run our life like this. This is the region that is feeding the nation. There's a successive crisis in the rivers where Odili will have challenge with Amechi. Amechi will have a problem. Wike is having with Fubara now. The downtrodden people are the one behind the brunt, just like what Yusuf is saying, that it's not constitutional. So Wike needs to temper, and Fubara needs to be more careful. You can't be playing politics and be running government. You focus on one. And if you want to succeed, we need to work out the model in Lagos and all the states, where anytime a governor emerges, he will face governance and go and succeed. The only government that is trying to match politics to governance, he didn't have his second time. But all the governors in Lagos that has focused on governance, they were successful. And they get more recommendations to get more responsibility. So in Rivers, we have to talk to the two of them. There must be consideration for 7 million Rivers people. Their life is more important than the life of Wike and Fubara put together.
Yeah, we need to go. I was just going to say, that a focus on governance is easy when you don't have, these arrows being thrown, at you from the FCT. It's easy to focus, and know what you're about to do. But, it doesn't seem that way. And of course, the stories that we heard, from, the start, we're not pretty at all, about who appointed his chief of staff.
Whatever the arrow you are getting from Abuja, there's no justification for pulling down the parliament.
No, but I mean that's a different type of government. So we can then say
that the parliament should not sit again in certain places.
We can then say that everybody has had their own faults, right? A lot of them unconstitutional, a lot of them that are impeachment worthy, a lot of them,
both of them should be blamed.
Absolutely,
as the highest blame.
I mean, I wouldn't.
You're going to the parliament, pulling down the parliament. There's no justification for what Wike has done now. Is the monarchy why you give the man to allow to run his government, but to pull down the parliament.
So the point is,
you fought for democracy,
with that, right?
You fought for democracy.
Yeah.
I fought for democracy. I know the price I paid for democracy. You know the price paid for democracy. That's killing democracy. Then you put down a parliament.
I have agreed. I said that earlier, and I repeatedly say it, that if a governor is that high-handed that he destroys, government offices, it's enough to impeach him, and I agree with that. I'm just saying that it's easy for us to say, or paint these pictures when we really haven't been able to experience it from his own shoes and understand what he's also been dealing with, the demons that he's been dealing with since he became governor. And if he realizes that, because if you look at a lot of people will say, okay, now he's finally fighting back. Because if you realize that since he became governor, he's not really been in charge of the state to actually govern, then he would continue fighting and fighting and fighting. It doesn't excuse any of the things that he's done. Anyway, we need to go. Mr. Lokoba, thank you very much for stopping by. Always interesting speaking with you. It's time for us to say goodbye. We've had a very interesting Thursday morning on Breakfast Central. It's bye from me. We'll be back again tomorrow morning on Breakfast Central. I am Osaogie Ogbawa.